We're live.
All
Welcome,
right.
welcome. Woohoo!
Thank you. Thank you, Kristen. So happy to be here with you.
So happy to have you here. So, welcome to Rhythm Radio, where we come together every week to talk about how to create new rhythms and healthy rhythms in our body, in our days, in our businesses, and in our lives. And today I'm very excited to be joined by Anastasia Pryanikova. How's that?
Awesome.
Did I say
You
it?
got it right. You got it right. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We were
yeah, yeah.
just talking about, if you need to call her Anastasia, she's okay with that though.
Yes, I am.
But we have to go with the full out Russian pronunciation today because we work hard here to deliver.
Either way, either one is fine as long as I can recognize that it's me. That's good. That's all good.
All good. So you are someone with a diverse background and many hats. And while we're going to talk herbs today in springtime, can you just tell a little bit about your background and just what you're up to right now?
Yes, I have a pretty eclectic background. Believe it or not, I started off actually as a lawyer many years ago, and I practiced law for a number of years. And then I gradually transitioned into coaching, and I worked within the legal community on some sort of alternative dispute resolution methods and relationships and general health and wellness for lawyers. So that's how my interest started in this whole wellness field. And then eventually, after getting my certification in wellness coaching, I decided to supplement it with more education. I love learning. I love learning.
Keep learning.
Yes, and so now I am an herbalist. I also teach yoga. I teach aerial yoga, and I think the theme for all things I do right now is really to connect people, movement, and plants for health and well-being. I'm really inspired by nature and bringing nature into people's lives and making it their lifestyle is really what I'm passionate about. And it comes through physical movement as well as plants. So that's in a nutshell my story.
So you like to call yourself the flying herbalist. So
Yes.
aerial yoga and aerial fitness, and also um, dive into herbs as well. So you and I share a very aligned view about just getting back to nature for a lot of things. I work heavily in essential oils, as you know, where we just go to Mother Nature, and um, and herbs is obviously one of your passions. So now that we are into the spring season, what do we need in sort of our herbal toolbox, and what can we use this spring that's going to be supportive? Because I know it changes, and I know in the winter I got some elderberries syrup from you, and that was like definitely a winter kind of thing. And I don't know, do I still continue to use that, or is there another like path for springtime? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So I always like to take my cues from nature itself. And if we look at what's happening right now in nature, it's awakening, right, from this winter slumber. We were maybe a little slow, a little lethargic during the winter months, and now we have this stir inside of energy. We want to shed our winter clothes. We want to reappear and reemerge with new, renewed energy, right? So that's kind of what we feel in nature. If you think of the seed maybe planted about now in the soil, kind of patiently waiting, and then all that water and the melted water from the winter snow and the rains that we've got now, it's bringing all those nutrients in the soil to the seeds so it can grow. So there's a lot of water movement through the nature right now. And so when I'm looking at our bodies as well, I'm thinking about ways to support natural kind of cleansing and detoxification, the moving of that gunk and kind of stuff that's stuck in the winter sometimes. and then prepare to build with new nutrients, the fresh greens that are about to emerge. So I'm looking at the lymphatic system. That's our system that helps us eliminate all the toxins from the body. I'm looking to support the liver, the hottest organ in our body that metabolizes a lot of things we consume. Digestion is a big one. How can we bring a little more fire into our digestive system and really kind of balance our digestion? So that's where my kind of head is when it comes to springtime in my own personal spring care routine. And I still have my elderberry either syrup. I oftentimes have actually just tinctured elderberry, ginger, and cinnamon. And so I always have that in the form of a tincture. And tincture in herbalism, it's just an extract of plants and alcohol. So alcohol helps us to extract all the kind of like the nutrients that we want, and then we can take a dropful once a day or a couple times a day for maintenance. So we oftentimes as herbalists use tinctures because they're just convenient and small and easy to keep in your cupboard in my herbal cabinet. So yes, and so those would be the systems that I would look right now. In addition to general immunity system, is the lymphatic system, the digestive system, supporting the liver, supporting good digestion, the flow of nutrients, the flow of toxins out, and the flow of nutrients and the absorption of nutrients in. So those would be some of the things I look into.
So what would be like an example of a daily routine herbally or your herbal daily routine that you would practice or recommend to support those systems that you just described?
Yeah, so one thing actually that's also very interesting about nature, I like this saying, the answer is always closer than you think. And I think it's very true when it comes to herbalism, because a lot of our medicine and herbal support really are steps away. And I would look at the plants that are popping up right now. Literally, if you take a walk, I took a walk with my dog this morning, and you look around and you see like little dandelion leaves popping up. And a lot of people think of a dandelion like a weed, right? It's something that we sometimes try to get rid of from our lawns. But what people sometimes don't realize, it's a powerhouse of nutrients. It has vitamins A, vitamin C, vitamins K, E. So it has calcium, it has minerals, potassium, calcium. So a lot of nutrients are in that little small leaf that right now is sort of just popping out. It's fresh. And the other very important thing about dandelion, and why I love dandelion, is that it's really good for digestion and for liver support. So right now is the time when you can either harvest it on your own, forage it on your own. I always tell people need to absolutely be sure what they're foraging. So if you've never done it,
If I have a dandelion in my yard, do I go pick that, or am I needing to get this dandelion somewhere else? Like, where would I be sourcing it?
if your yard is pretty, what I wouldn't pick is like if you see a dandelions right around like a busy road where there's a lot of fumes coming, or you know that the area is really heavily sprayed with pesticides and things like that, then I would avoid those really contaminated areas. But if you have a clean yard, clean backyard, that's perfect. That's really easy. And that's what I also love about some of our herbal medicine, is how accessible it is. You don't need to even spend money to buy that medicine. You can really literally grow it, or you can find it under your feet growing on its own. So absolutely, if you have a clean yard and you can identify dandelion, you can pick up those leaves for your dinner salad. And the other thing that dandelions are really good for is they're considered to be a bitter. So they're bitters. The leaf is bitter. And in our diet, especially in the United States, we have, I think, overconsumption of sugar and sweets, and we don't have enough bitters. And bitters are very important for our digestive system. In fact, if I were to pick one area where you probably want to have herbal support a year round, it would be some kind of bitters. And oftentimes, again, in herbalism, we would just combine several plants and we would do like alcohol based or extract of those plants, and we would take them about 20 minutes before meals. And what bitters do, and you can even do your own personal experiment with the dandelion leaf. Try to pick up a leaf and chew on it, just chew on it. Realize the bitter taste. It's going to taste bitter. But what you may also notice is that you start to salivate a little more, because what bitters do is they stimulate the production of bile, and they prepare our digestive system to process the food that we're about to eat. That's a very important function. So your body is already getting ready to consume that dinner, whatever you're preparing in the kitchen, and you're kind of sending a signal to your brain also that the food is coming. So bitters are very important. You can, like I said, just chew before meal, chew on the dandelion leaf or throw it into the salad. That's always a good way to have dandelions. Actually, interestingly enough, dandelions we can use roots. Dandelion root oftentimes is powdered, and it can be used in combination with chicory or burdock root as a substitute for coffee, or you can even combine coffee with that, and all of those roots are really good for, again, digestive system. The root contains prebiotic, and a prebiotic inulin is the food for our probiotics, which is our good things in the stomach. So that's very important. And for fun, you can even eat little yellow flowers. People make fritters with dandelion fritters. So you can throw them into smoothies, same thing with leaves. So you can get all those benefits of helping your digestive system, helping your immunity as well, because there's a lot of antioxidants in dandelion. So you're helping your immune system, you're helping your digestion, you're helping your liver, and it's just was one plant that literally grows outside your window. So that's what's so amazing about our plants around, and sometimes people don't realize that how easy it is.
Yeah.
So I definitely have a tincture, liver support tincture, that includes burdock, yellow dock, and dandelion. You can easily find the tea. So dandelion root tea is really available as well. You can have that. Yeah, so I think we have a lot of different opportunities. And again, just go to the farmers. If you don't have clean backyard, you can go to farmers market, and a lot of farmers will bring now dandelion leaves as part of their greens. So that's a good way to start.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we use like it's a, natural lawn company. So they're supposed to be more natural and organic than most lawn companies. But I also have a ton of deer in my backyard. So I usually have between 5 and 7 deer in my backyard every day. So I'm just wondering, I don't even know if I have any dandelions, but if I did, what about like just pulling them from your yard if you have, in this area of the country, Connecticut in particular, Lyme disease is a thing for sure. Should I be concerned that, that's been around the animals?
I would just like in any food, you can wash it off, just the general, just rinse it under cold water, and and that's all you need. Just like you would grow spinach in your yard, or basil, or whatever it is that you may grow as a garden. Same thing with the weeds, so to speak. You just wash them off well, and they will be ready for you, and then throw them into salads or smoothies or something like that.
Yeah, I never thought about putting it into a smoothie, so that's interesting.
Yeah, that's another way to.
Dandelions will be part of our spring routine. What would be your next choice in terms of an herb that would be great for us at this time of year?
So another one of my favorite herbs, which people may not think of, is stinking nettle. So nettle, Nettle right now is also very readily available, and it's probably going to be just for a few months before it turns really coarse. But right now is the time when the leaves are still tender. They still sting, so don't be fooled by that. When you gather them, it's good to have gloves on you because the stems are gonna have they have this little stinging. That's why we call them stinging nettle, because they have those little things that gonna prickle your fingers. But they will go away with cooking. So stinging nettle is a really good building herb. It has a lot of mineral, and in fact, if you just taste it, it has this almost like metallic minerally taste. It has a lot of good minerals that our body needs right now. So what I usually do, I have some dry nettle from previous seasons that I use to infuse into boiling water. So I take dry nettle, I pour almost like I would make tea, except that I let it sit about at least 20 minutes. Sometimes I can, you can put it in the fridge and steep it over, like set it overnight, and then you drink that really concentrated infusion throughout the day. And this is a really good tonic herb to help you build the nutrients in the body. It has iron. And if you cook with leaves of stinging nettle, you can think of them almost like a spinach. You would use spinach or basil. You can put them into soups. You can put them on top of like pizza or on top of some, whatever it is that you are, wherever you use greens normally into pastas, you can use stinging nettle. And that gives you that extra boost of nutrients that you can get again very easily. And you can even harvest it right now. It's everywhere. Once again, you just have to make sure that you go first with someone who knows how to forage and can identify it properly. But now would be the time, because then it turns coarse and you can't really get that.
Interesting. So I wouldn't know what that looks like. So I'd either have to go with someone like you who knows how to spot it, identify it, and forage it. Or if I don't have access to someone who knows what they're doing, is it something you can purchase like at the
Yes.
grocery
You
store?
can definitely purchase it. And here's what I would say in terms of sourcing your herbs. You need to have a good source for herbs so that you feel like secure that it's organic, it's clean. So first thing I would do is Google local apothecaries wherever you are in your area. Support local herbalists that take time to package and bring those herbs to your communities, and they probably have a store or a shop where you can just go and buy. So that would be my first choice, is Google your local small apothecaries and support the herbalists. And if you can't find those, then you can go online. Mountain Rose Farm, there's a number of companies right now that bulk herb store would be another where I oftentimes buy herbs, but they are sold. You can even find organic nettle on Amazon and other places. So it's not as hard as it used to be. Right now you can pretty much Google anything and you can find a good source of organic herbs. But again, I would just encourage you to either go to maybe farmers at your farmers market, herbalists in the local community, and just connect to your local people who can maybe take you on an herbal walk and show you what nettle looks like, so you don't even have to
I love it. Do you ever do that? Do you do any herbal walks like that? I think we need one of those.
I actually did. The last time I did last fall in my area where I am, we did an herbal walk here. It was in the, I want to say in September. I remember we had a lot of blooming mugwort, and we had goldenrod and red clover, and yarrow was still on. So we had a lot of fun plants to identify that, yeah.
Oh,
So
that's
that's
cool.
something,
Well, I would definitely, consider joining something like that. So
yeah.
if you are local to this area or in Southern Connecticut or Southwest Connecticut, I guess, or anywhere around here, you got your contact, your local herbalist right here. And now if someone's not local, do you still, do you have customers that aren't local that you ship to?
I actually right now I'm working primarily local because of just a small batch. That's how I operate these days. I don't really ship or sell anything off my website, but I do provide consults, herbal consults. So if people just want to talk, I can refer them to the resources. If they can't find local apothecaries, what we call them, they can still connect to herbal resources and get their herbs that way.
Okay. Well, maybe in the comments on our video, you can give us a couple of website links that people can check out, including your own. Um, so what if I want to grow some herbs? I do not have a green thumb, and I've tried to grow some herbs in pots in my house, like throughout the year, and also outdoors in the summer in pots. I don't have like an actual garden space right now.
Yeah.
What would you recommend for the newbie like myself this spring? What would be good herbs to try to grow that would be hard to kill? Number one, and also, yeah, that would be good for this time of year, I guess. And when do I start doing that? When do I plant them?
Absolutely. So I'm a fairly new gardener myself, even though I grew up with my background is like my grandparents and my parents, they had a garden. They always grew their own food. And in fact, my first exposure to herbalism was when I was a child and we would forage in the woods. And I was able to identify all kinds of weeds and mushrooms that were good versus it was just part of the culture where I grew up in Russia. We always were that close to nature and we're growing our food. And then when I moved to the US, I kind of stepped away from it. So most recently, the place where I lived, it was on a big hill, so I didn't have a lot of flat land, and a lot of things that I grew was raised beds, kind of like right outside, or like you said, Kristen, just in your kitchen. I had little kitchen herb garden, and those are pretty easy to start. And for someone who is just starting off, maybe I wouldn't even go with the seeds, but I would go to the nursery and find some little already grown plants that you can just kind of start in your own kitchen in a small pot and let it grow, because we can also have a lot of seedlings available. Even this time of the year is a great time to look for seedlings, and I have definitely some resources for that too if you're local to the area. Some people who grow great seedling choices for you, and then people also oftentimes don't realize how our regular things like, for example, basil or thyme or rosemary, parsley, how important and medicinally rich those plants are. So those are some plants that you can easily start. Thyme is really great antiviral. It's actually very good for respiratory system. So you can definitely cook with it, but you can also make tea with it. Any peppermint family is great for digestion. So mints are fabulous. You can do teas with them. You can do different mocktails with them. So all kinds of things you can throw mint into. I like those. I love basil, so I always grow basil. I usually eat it faster than faster than I can grow it. And right now, but those would be my favorite. Rosemary is great for the brain health. It's also antiviral, has a lot of different applications. You can do beautiful herbal rinses with rosemary for the hair, for the skin. So it's a very versatile, beautiful herb. Sage is another option. So yeah, oregano. Don't forget oregano. Love oregano. So those would be some of the easy suggestions. Go find some seedlings, whatever you have in your area, and then just plant them where you have a little bit of kind of area in your kitchen where you could put your pots, where you get some light, and water them periodically, and just experiment. I think just to start and see where it takes you is already like the first step. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Right. And is there any one that I should steer clear of in terms of the deer? I mentioned I have a lot of deer, and so they like to eat just about anything I plant. So is there anything that they don't like that they would stay away from?
You know what? I don't know actually. Because I don't have that big garden in my backyard, I haven't really encountered yet. I do know that they eat just about anything. So
Yeah, I'm never sure if it's the deer or the bunnies. We have a lot of bunnies, like, but I will grow something out there in a pot and I come out the next day and like I had tulips one time that I grew
oh yeah.
and they all finally came up and bloomed. And the next day I went out and the head of every tulip was gone. It was just
Oh
this, I was
yes.
like, oh, I had those tulips for a day.
Yeah, so apart from physical barriers, it would be interesting if people out there know some good ways to keep the deer away. But apart from like a physical barrier and kind of to include your little garden into, I'm not even sure.
I mean, I actually put some right up on my front, like by my front door, like right up on my little porch, and they come right up to the front door.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's
They're not shy. They're not shy. Well,
yeah. So bring those herbs into the kitchen, little pot
yeah,
garden,
yeah, I'll
kitchen
do that.
pot.
So, is there a time like that we should start this? If I want to look at seedlings, or if I want to get some maybe ready-made plants from the nursery, is it too early because we still have some cold weather coming
Well,
in?
it could be if you go outside, it might be still early, but if you grow again, if you bring something into the kitchen, that's one of the benefits of having a little kitchen garden that you can literally have it year round. So right now you can experiment with kitchen garden when the weather sets in and we have sort of ready for plant for May or something in that area, then you can start taking the seedlings out into the soil while we're still having sort of the weather, a little unstable weather. It could be some frost in the soil at night. So yeah, I would wait for it for outside gardening, but definitely possible to bring it inside right now.
Awesome.
Start
Excellent.
inside.
Yeah. Well, this has been so interesting, and I'm going to keep my eye out for dandelions. And I'm just curious, locally, do you have a favorite farmers market that you frequent?
So there, it's I'm sort of in between places. I live
Right.
right now in Orange, Connecticut, and I work a lot of times in Stamford.
Right.
So it's really whatever is on my way. Westport Farmers Market. I was at Darien Farmers Market, Stamford Farmers Market. So I'm literally wherever, depending on where I am. And right now, I moved to Orange about a year ago, and so I'm really it's a more rural area and there are a lot of farms around. So I'm really excited to explore, actually go into the farms and farm stands and being able to pick up my produce from the farms. So that's what how I see here in this area.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, I go to the Westport one a lot, and New Canaan I like too. So those are like
Yeah. Yeah. So whatever you have near you, just go and check it out and support the farmers, support local food producers. Yes.
okay. Well, thank you so much. This was so fun. It was great to see this side of you. I had an aerial restorative class this week, earlier in the week with Anastasia, and it was just beautiful. But I'm very excited that you could put on your herbal hat and give us some good info today. So
Thank you so much for inviting me, Kristen. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
you're so welcome, and thanks for listening. Be sure to check out your local herbalists, your local farmers markets, and support local business always.
Always, always.